I'm Travis Brown, founder and CEO of Mojo Up Marketing and Media. And this is my podcast where I talk to the most successful Black and brown business executives who've broken through the barriers of today's business culture. Welcome to Mojo Up Live. My name is Travis Brown. I am excited to be here today. I got a good friend of mine who is an awesome husband. He's a great father. Some people might call him a drill sergeant, but really he's a coach, he's a trainer, and he makes it happen on the basketball court. But also, he's one of the best shit talkers that I've ever been around. Welcome, my good friend, Nick Daniels. What's up, my man?
How you doing?
Thanks for joining me today. You know, what's funny is that we play obviously on a team together, and watching you talk trash is one of my most amusing things to do. I got to ask, were you always a trash talker, like in high school or college coming up?
Well, you know, I'm one of three boys, so I'm the middle, and you know, having an older brother, and we all close in age. Like we just grew up talking junk to each other. That's something our family do, and just being from Chicago area. That's just what we do.
So your world is kind of surrounded around basketball, and so today we'll get into this about the training world and what you do with M14. But talk about, you know, basketball wasn't your first love, if I understand it right. You almost thought you were going to play football. Is that right?
Right. Yeah, it wasn't my only love. Right. If you asked me during football season what was my favorite sport, it was football. If you asked me during basketball season, it was basketball. But you know, I was actually a little bit better at football when I was in high school. At least I thought I was, and that was what my end goal was probably going to be, but that God had other plans for me. So
I know a little bit of your story, but first you're a good football player, but in high school played basketball. You're from Illinois. So talk about where you're from there, what's high school basketball, and then how you got to Indiana.
So I was born and raised in Aurora, Illinois, which is a suburb right outside of Chicago. You know, went to high school at a school called Waubonsie. I actually went to high school with Patrick Beverly. So I don't know if you guys watched any of his documentaries, and he talked about he went to this school where the kids were showing up in better cars than the parents. That was that school, right? A lot like HSC or Fishers out here. Then ultimately I went JUCO for my first 2 years of college and then landed in Fort Wayne, and then started working with M14 and came out here to start up a second location. So that's what brought me to Indianapolis.
You know, when I see you on the court now actually playing, we're not even getting to training yet. Are you better now than you were in college?
No, I have more moves now than I did in college, but I think that's a gift and a curse, right? Because you think a little bit too much. In college, I had a couple of moves. This is what I do, and we'll be able to get downhill. So no. The 21-year-old Nick would destroy the 30-year-old Nick.
You know, in the game of basketball today, there's like the business side of basketball, the love of basketball. You know, I hear people say this all the time. It kind of bugs me. I'm interested to hear what you think, but they're like, oh, these kids these days, like they don't know how to play the game. They don't know the game. And I look at what's happening on the court and I'm like, what game are they watching? Right. Like kids are so advanced, so developed, doing things differently. Like, is the game that much different? Are the kids better? Like, what is this whole conversation about?
So, you know, I guess we all go through that with the new generation, right? The generation before that generation was probably saying the same thing, right? But honestly, man, the game is in a great spot right now. The kids are more skilled. They're bigger. They're faster. They're stronger. They have more resources at their disposal to really improve their game, and they've been able to take the game to the next level. I mean, come on. When I was in college, that was a Euro step was like a high-level finish move. Now you can show up to a regular fourth grade game and you have fourth graders doing Euro steps in the game. So that just tells you right there. But no, man, the game's in a great spot. The players are much better than they were back then, but they wouldn't have had the platform that they have now if it weren't for the generation before them.
So when you hear guys talk about, you know, they talk about Michaels and the Kobes and LeBrons like on the NBA schedule, and they go back and forth about how this generation couldn't play then, this generation can outshoot them. Like when you think about where the games come from, even if you go back to like the Showtime Lakers and kind of up till now, like in your opinion, is the game better now? Is it that much faster? Is the lack of physicality change it? Like, what's your opinion as a real basketball guy on the game?
It just depends on what you like, right? Some people like the old physical style of play, but you know, really, you know, I guess we judge the game based off of how it's being played in the NBA, and the NBA is about entertainment, right? So They don't want the low scoring games. They don't want their stars out because they got injured or getting beat up when they come down the lane. Right? They want to, they want to put on a nice product where the guys are scoring 100+ points a game. And you got Steph Curry shooting one step across half court, and you got Ja Morant flying down the lane, dunking on 7-footers. That's a much better product to watch from an entertainment standpoint. So, I mean, it just depends on who you ask, right? For me, I like all different styles of basketball, right? I like the up and down style. I like the European style where they're moving the ball and it's a lot of actions and it's a lot of strategy involved. But also, I don't mind watching some isolation basketball as well. So, I just think that, everybody has their taste. And that's the beautiful thing of basketball, right? If you like a more structured style of basketball, watch college basketball. You like more high flying, you got the NBA. So,
if you're talking about basketball in today's environment, for people that don't know maybe a lot about where the game is today, like there's this high level of training that's occurring, and people think that it's overkill for kids. Some people think it's great because they're training development. Some people think it's discipline. Like, walk me into like what M14 Hoops is, what you guys are trying to do, because although it's probably basketball, but there's a lot to it.
Yeah, it's a lot more than basketball, right? The truth is less than 6% of high school seniors are going to go on to play college basketball, right? So when you start looking at it from that angle, then even less are going to go on to play pro basketball, right? You have a better chance of becoming an astronaut or a surgeon or getting hit by a Mack truck than making it to the NBA, right? So you look at those percentages, we can't just be trying to get a kid better at basketball, right? There's some other things that can be that can be accomplished through the game of basketball and through training, right? Like life lessons, right? Learning accountability, how to accept constructive criticism, time management, teamwork. These are things that are going to make them successful later on down the road. I mean, I know I can speak for myself, probably speak for you too. I mean, sports did that for us, and I don't know where I would be without sports. So that's more what we hang our hat on, right? We want to make sure we're teaching the life lessons through the game of basketball rather than just teaching a crossover or between the legs. Because honestly, man, a normal parent can't tell if we teach a crossover better than the next organization does. But those life lessons that we teach, helping kids become better and gaining confidence, right? I can't tell you how many times we get emails from parents like, man, my kid is just a more confident kid now that he's going through your program or that she's going through your program. So those are the kind of stories that we like, and that's really what we do it for.
I don't know if I've ever told you this, but my daughter, Carter, was the first to go through M14. I think a friend of ours had introduced us to that, and so I put her in it blind, like, cool. I walked in the gym, and the whistle blows, and it's just this madness, right? You start to hear all this stuff going on, and all of a sudden, you got you, Randy, Eric, you're on all three courts, and kids are running everywhere, and I'm watching this, and I'm like, whoa. And then I watched how you talk to the kids, and how you taught them how to respect the authority by which you guys talk, the focus. And I called my wife, sitting in the gym at the time, before it's called Mojo Up, and I said, hey, we got to have Braden come, because I have a son, and I thought, man, I got to have him in this type of environment with strong black leaders teaching this. That was my first experience. That didn't happen by accident. Talk to me about the philosophy that you guys have to create that environment where kids are learning like that.
Well, they need structure, right? So first and foremost, the kids want structure, right? But if you don't give it to them, they'll go run around like a wild pack of dogs, just like dogs, right? They want structure, right? But if there's no structure there, then they kind of do what they want. But for us, it's, hey, if we're going to have 50, 60, sometimes 100 kids in the gym, like there has to be some organization there, and they have to know who's in charge, right? Because mom and dad is signing up to help their kid get better, right? They want to make sure that they're learning. So if a kid doesn't have that, then we aren't coming through what we promise to our clients. So we want to make sure that we provide that structure for the players. So it is a part of what we do and who we are. Like, hey, Berg, very militant, people say, on how we do things, just to make sure that we're getting the kids better.
Yeah, the other point was I sit in your first parent session, and this is actually, I think, after I'd met you, and I was sitting in your parent session, just listening to you, like, break down, like, hey, here's what we expect, here's what we're asking of you, don't do this. It's funny, the other day I walked by a lady, she was filming during one of your sessions, and I said, "Hey, ma'am, I don't mind, but I wouldn't let the guy over there in the red see you filming that," because you break that down in your parent session. So talking about how you set those expectations, and it kind of has this like, I'm not asking for your permission for this. We're telling you how it's going to be as we're building the foundation of our program.
Well, it's funny you bring that up. That is a rule that I'm happy that we've recently changed, right? So back in the day when social media was new, when M14 first started, we couldn't really control what people did with the footage, right? They might catch their kid crossing another kid over and then put it up on Facebook, and now it went viral, and your kid looks good, but the kid that fell doesn't look good. So that was one of the things that we just couldn't control. So we said, hey, no filming. Now, with how easy it is for people to just pull out their phone and it's just a part of our world and how we live.
Yep.
We gave that one up. Like you can't set up a tripod and film the whole session, but you want to pull out your phone, you totally can. But in regards to M14, we want to be transparent with what you're signing up for, right? Here's the rules, right? And this is a line, like that we're drawing a line in the sand, so you know what you're signing up for, like, hey, and what to expect versus kind of letting them make it up, because especially in youth basketball, parents tend to try to take over and kind of do what they want, but not when you're at M14, because we want to keep the main thing. What we say is it's about the kids, right? So if we got a parent trying to get their kids' attention while we're talking to them, well, you're creating a bad habit, and then now, like, who are they listening to, right? That's a distraction. This is about the kid getting better. So we have to make sure we set the ground before you even sign up with the program, so you know what you're getting yourself into. It's about the kid.
I just loved it. I was just sitting there in that parent session, just kind of like, I loved the leadership, and it's what I was taking from it, right? It was like, there's leadership of being very clear about these expectations, because a lot of things that you go into today, the expectations aren't really clear. And I believe that the expectations aren't clear, the results will suffer, right? Now, you've had some success now with people coming through your program, and maybe we may not want to name drop or talk about anyone specific, but talk about the development of certain players, and what does it mean for you guys to now have people that are at the high levels in college that are products of the program?
Well, it legitimizes the system of development, right? When you have players who, no matter what you say, like here's the percentages. Okay, well, have you had anybody make it to the next level? So it legitimizes us, and especially when you're in a community that's so close knit, so everybody knows everybody. They know who they're training with, so they start to judge how you guys do things or how good your product is based off of what what players you produce or what they do, outside of the training with us. So, no, it's awesome, man. I get pleasure in training the highest level and the lowest level kids. It don't matter, right? It just, as long as you're there to get better, what we say is we're for the serious basketball player, right? And talent doesn't define that. It's commitment, dedication. Are you willing to sacrifice? And you're willing to work hard for just that season, you're an M14 type player. But obviously working with some of the, seeing some of the work that you put in with a kid pay off and help them reach their goals and reach their dreams is super rewarding.
Well, right behind you, we got those purple shoes that happen to be Nigel's. You worked with Nigel. He was a client of ours, and we helped him with some stuff. Kudos to him, because he signed a nice, lucrative NIL deal, which was amazing for Nigel. But he's one of those stories I think that are important to understand. You talked about like a transition of a player like that going, hey, you got to understand your size, your build, understanding the game, who you could possibly be, and then you started to adapt your training and program. Talk a little bit about just the philosophy around understanding the next option to figure out what we're going to do now.
Right. So anytime you're developing, right, it's like you're putting in directions to get to a certain destination. You have to know what the destination is, or at least what the goal is, right? So it's setting goals, right? What my goal is to play college basketball. Nigel was, particular, to be specific, he was very specific with his goals. So first thing we ask every player, why are you here? To get better. Okay, what are your goals? And he was very specific with his goals, and he said, I want to play high major, Power 5, Division I basketball. Well, I looked at him, said, you're not super tall. Okay, looked at mom and dad, they're not super tall either.
Great people.
Right, great people, awesome people. You have some athleticism, but you're just not super big, right? And you're not super fast. He's not slow. He's explosive, right? But nothing was off. It was just screaming off the charts. I said, okay, all right. You take that, okay, and you figure out how you can grow with what you have to help put him in a position to get to where he was. So for him as a point guard, you got to be able to score at all three levels. Being able to score in the paint meant floaters for him. So we broke down, went and studied. Like I learned more about floaters trying to help develop his floater than almost any other skill in the game of basketball, right? Really just breaking down film, researching, looking at different players and looking at the different floaters, and sometimes just looking at certain moves or certain finish moves that people were doing. Can we move that out and turn that into a floater, right? And being able to do it, with being ambidextrous and being able to do it with both hands. So that was something that we just really focused on. Like you ain't doing any other finish move except a floater, because he wasn't playing above the rim and being 6 foot, he really 5'11", right? On the high major level, I mean, you're undersized, okay? So you get in that paint, it's 6'8", 6'9", 40 inch vertical waiting for you. You got to be able to score so that you can continue to assist. So we worked on the floor. Here's a cool story about him, right? So one day, Nigel, it was probably his sophomore year, I want to say, freshman or sophomore year. He in the middle of a session, so I was like, all right, we're going to do this move. We're going to this floater. He was like, Coach, I got something to say. Like, what do I do? Because both of my coaches hate me shooting floaters. My high school coach don't like it. Old school, don't like this new. And then my AAU coach doesn't like it. Now, to their defense, the floater is a low percentage shot. It is not a high percentage shot. It is something that you have to work on to be able to get. But for Nigel to get to the next level, he was going to need a floater, right? And my job is to work for Nigel at the same time trying to help him be better for his team. But at the end of the day, if I'm going to continue to work with Nigel, I got to do what's best for him. So I said, all right, here's how everybody wins. They're right, I'm right, okay? If you want to, they're not going to say anything if that floater goes in, right? You shoot it and it's going in, no coach is going to say anything. Right. It's like that bad shot, it's like, that better go in, right? Right. I'm sure when Steph Curry came across half and took his first deep three, the coach he was playing for was not happy with it, but it was going in, so he had to live with it, and it just kind of became a part of his game. So I said, hey, here's how Nigel wins in all of this. You have to shoot 250 floaters a day, 125 with your left, 125 with your right. The same way you would get up your shots, your threes, and your pull-ups, you got to do that with the floaters. He said, all right. He did it. Fast forward to going into a senior year when he had all these scholarship offers. Obviously, during the recruiting process, these coaches, they try to find who's close with them. So and knowing that I'm close with them, they're reaching out to me, just trying to get some intel, trying to get close. And every coach, he could play on our level because he has a floater. And I just cracked up laughing. What if I would have told him, all right, let's stop working on floaters. Let's continue to get to the rim. Like, that wouldn't have helped him get closer to his goal. And he wouldn't be sitting at, Miami right now on that lucrative
NIL deal, right? And not just in Miami, because I don't want to discredit the fact that he was a first-team all Big 12 and put 35 on those national championship Kansas team, right? Let me transition out of the guys for a second, because your program is not just for guys. Sometimes people think that, but you have a thriving and amazing girls program, and really developing female athletes. So first of all, talk about where the female game is, and then I got some questions for you around that as well.
Female game, I think it's heading in the right direction, right? Obviously, it is still pretty new compared to how long the boys game has been going on, right? So, I think a lot of what used to happen in the past was, we trained or we coached girls to play differently than we did with the boys. I think the new wave is they're no different, right? It's basketball. They're playing the same sport, right? It's the same rules, so we should train them and teach them the same. So now you go to a game and you see girls, doing, handling the ball better than the boy can, right? Because they're a basketball player. They can make moves. They can do all the same things that the boys can. So I think it's moving in the right direction. I really do.
I've been a couple of your trainings as a girls basketball coach my daughter's team. I've watched some of your girls sessions, and I'm over there like taking notes, talking about this, figuring this out, because like the skill set and the development has come so far, and you're watching them do things with the basketball that, in my opinion, like girls have struggled to learn and develop. But now I understand. It's like, because we're treating it like the game. It's a game. Other than probably playing above the rim, like almost everything else is there's some parity to that nowadays, right?
Absolutely. Exact same thing. And that's the first thing we tell all of our players. Like, we don't train a gender. We don't train a religion. We don't train a color. Like, listen, you guys are here to learn basketball. We're going to treat you and train you the same. Now, obviously, you got to adjust a little bit so that you're appropriate. But at the end of the day, like, the girls want to get pushed just like the boys. And, you know, man, they deserve the same opportunities the boys get. And a lot of times, man, what I like most is when they play against a boy and they kicking that boy's butt and using the moves that the boy's struggling with, man. There's nothing better than that. And they looking like, man, how can you do that? But honestly, man, they're the same as the boys.
You know, and full disclosure, like I didn't understand the girls' game until I became a girls' coach. And this last 2 years, I've coached my daughter. You know, when I first asked my daughter's team, like, who's your favorite player? It was Steph, it was LeBron. It was like, hold on a second, what about the WNBA players? Like, and I had to go down that path. And so, you know, I got my son, we watched the game, WNBA games, we watched the WNBA draft. Yeah. Like, you know, just trying to create a culture, you know, not just for my daughter, but for my son to understand the game and support it. You know, you have an invested interest in girls personally. You know, your daughter's on the come up now. She decided to play. Talk about what it's been like to train her and how that's been different, you know, training other girls.
Oh man, it's way different. You know, all these years, you know, you're used to parents coming to you and be like, listen, man, I've been telling my kid the same thing you've been saying for years, but all of a sudden you said they listen to it. You know, they get to that age where it's in one ear and out the other. And I think my daughter and I are quickly approaching that window. But it's nice though, because, you know, I've put so much time in all these other kids for me to be able to put some time in with my daughter and to help her learn the game that I love and that I got so much from has been really, really nice, man. Like, we sit down, like, just like you, we watch WNBA games. We've been to WNBA games together with our daughters. And, you know, those are moments that she's going to cherish, that I'm going to cherish for the rest of her life. But also, you know, I'm trying to educate her on the game of basketball and give her the history of the game, right? So, like, yesterday it was funny on the way home. She's like, all right, Daddy, so here's my top 10 players of all time. She put Magic in it. Like, her top 10 was, like, spot on. Now, she didn't have Kareem, so I had to help her get that in there. She didn't have Hakeem. She's like, I don't even know who this player is. I'm like, listen, you knew who Magic and Bird were because of me. These guys need to be in there.
I missed that one. Maybe I should have told you that.
So she did her own research. She looked it up. You know, they got highlights and stuff, and she gets to see it. She's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's definitely top 10. So that's really cool. And then, you know, on Saturday nights, this has been our new thing. We watch a basketball movie, whether it's an old school movie or a new school movie. So one week we watched Love and Basketball, which was nice. I'm like, maybe we watched this a little too early. Maybe we should have been older. But, you know, just been able to share some of these experiences with her, man. It's been really nice that, you know, because that's something that I love and I'm real passionate about, and I know a lot more about. Before, when she was doing gymnastics, all I could do was support her. I didn't know a whole lot, and I had to do some research to learn a little bit more.
And how does your wife's Caitlin, and so how does mom deal with dad / coach, like in you know, getting on her, because you're not soft?
No, not at all. She's the perfect buffer. Like, when I'm coaching games, I like to keep her in eyesight, because sometimes if I'm tripping, she'll be like, you need to calm down. And I'll take a deep breath, because I am so, it really is all through love, right? I'm so invested in my daughter, in the girls. I love the game of basketball, and I want to see them do good. I want to see them do well. So sometimes you let your emotions kind of get the best of you, but it's been nice, man. She's a great buffer. She keeps it going.
So we're getting ready to coach a team together. It's our first grade sons, you know, developing, and so I'm excited about this season and what this is going to bring. Like, but how do you teach that game different from a level of, you know, you're not coaching a high school phenomenon, but you're coaching a first grader? What does that? How's that look?
Honestly, that is some of the best. You know, I enjoy that the most, right? Because you're getting to teach these players the fundamentals of the game of basketball, which are so important, right? It's tough because, you know, again, our sons watching NBA games, they want to do what they saw Steph Curry do. We're like, hey, it starts here, though. In order to get there, we got to start here. So, no, I'm looking forward to it, teaching the kids the game of basketball. I know I remember my first experience with basketball. I remember the coach that introduced the game to me, so I'm happy to be that guy to, or, you know, share that with you, to be that first experience with basketball for some of these players.
It's fun watching you coach the little guys through your first step program. Obviously, Braden's been in your program for a while, and I remember putting him in. I'm like, man, if he stays in this program, like he can't not be good.
Right.
Like he's going to have to try to not be good because like the training development and what he's getting, it's so different. But I've just enjoyed that and really appreciated all you've done to invest not only in him but the others. Last question before we get to the hot seat though is all right, LeBron, Kobe, Michael, Steph, like these are the guys that they talk about, but they miss a lot of guys. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to talk about the guys they're missing. Like, let's break down, a little piece of each of their game that you love. So Michael's, what do you love most about Michael Jordan's game?
What do I love most about what don't I love about Mike's game? His competitiveness, right? Like he's always trying to win. He's willing to do whatever it takes to win, and it's nice when you can use the GOAT as the standard, and the standard he set was so high and was so good and kept the game in the right place, right? The first thing I tell players all the time, like, who's the best player all the time? They always gonna say Michael Jordan, right? Do you know how many first team all defensive teams he made? 9. Like, he set the tone. He set the standard. Don't be mad at me, right? The best player said, hey, defense. You have to be great on offense and you have to be great on defense. That was the standard. So if you think you're great and you don't play good, you don't play defense, you ain't great.
Now, most of the time, I only wear 2 kinds of shoes. I wear J's, and today I put my Kobe's on because these are
I got my J's.
You got J's on. These are Kobe's. So talk about Kobe.
Kobe. He was actually my favorite player growing up, right? So he was a rookie when I was in 4th grade. That's when I really took a liking to him. Kobe was the Michael Jordan of our generation, and he took on that same mentality. If you recall, at M14, we all tuck our shirts in, right? That was a Nick Daniels thing. I started that, right? And the reason because I always looked up to Kobe. So when I was in practice, I had the cutoff under my jersey. My jersey was tucked in. It was never out because I saw Kobe did that, right? So Kobe was my favorite player. I think he did a lot for the game of basketball, but not only just on the boys' side, but on the girls' side, right?
Yeah.
Some of that impact. So, no, Kobe, favorite player.
So Michael, I grew up as a kid, Michael Jordan, based upon my age. Man, I always forget how much younger you are than me because when I graduated high school, it was in '95, and so Michael was basically done, and then Kobe picked up the torch, and so I became a Kobe guy, from then on. So then there's this guy, LeBron James. So talk about his game, what he's done for it.
Man, LeBron took the game to the next level. He showed that you can he took on a huge responsibility. And I think he handled it with grace. I mean, think about somebody 18 years old, put into that type of position with that much pressure and to excel not just only on the court, but off the court. I think, man, he set a great example for the future of, athletes and just black men in general that, we can do right, man. So often we see the top guys or these guys that get all of this. They don't really handle it the best way, or they make the mistakes like everybody else has. But LeBron, only scar on his resume is going to Miami. If you want to call that
Steph Curry.
Steph Curry, revolutionary. Like he took the game to a whole nother level. Like he made it where you didn't have to jump high to be good at basketball, right? So I like it, man. For the average kid that, so often, it's basketball.
Yeah.
Bigger, faster, stronger is always going to prevail. But Steph Curry found a way to overcome that. So I like that a lot. And he did it for the light-skinned brothers. So
jump over to the women's side for a second. And my producers are going to kill me because I'm going to go over time today because I gotta map this out here. Diana Taurasi.
Go.
Like, what is it about her game that made her that?
Kobe. She grew up a Kobe fan, right? She has that competitive edge that Kobe and Michael Jordan have, and she's going to do whatever it takes to win. And, we've sat at games where she can barely run up and down the court, but she's still finding a way to get it done and watch to see what she did last year in the playoffs, man. At her age, is just it's amazing.
Candace
Parker. In my opinion, she's she's the best basketball player I've ever seen in person. So where I grew up, her high school was right up the street, right? We grew up in the same area. My cousins actually went to the same high school as she did, so I know Candace, and she's only a year or two older than me. So I watched her. She used to, one time in the playoffs, they were at our school. She used to wear an orange wristband with a baby blue Adidas logo on it because she was going to Tennessee, and she just could do everything a boy could do. And I watched her dunk in warm-ups. Like, man, a girl dunking. It made me look at myself, like, all right, maybe I need to step my game up. But she's the best women's basketball player I've ever seen in person.
Awesome. All right, I got a hot seat. I got some questions for you. I'll throw out some stuff, and you give me a one word or phrase answer. Favorite place to vacation?
Mexico. I haven't been to a lot of places, but Mexico a couple times. I loved it.
Favorite city to go to?
Favorite Chicago.
Favorite restaurant?
That's a tough one. I love Chatham Tap.
Late night snack?
Late night snack. What am I? Normally a protein bar.
I had this question because I heard Glenn Robinson answer that. He's like bologna sandwich. And I'm like, that's my dog right there. All right, favorite sports team?
Bulls or the Bears.
Favorite college?
Ohio State football, Duke basketball.
LeBron?
Second greatest player of all time.
Michael?
Greatest player of all time.
Kobe?
My favorite player of all time.
Wilt?
Most dominant.
Steph?
Splash.
Favorite TV show?
Martin.
Favorite Netflix binged show?
Netflix binge show. My wife and I have binged a ton of them. I love Blacklist. They probably should cut it off. Like, it's probably too many seasons, but I love Blacklist.
Favorite basketball movie?
Above the Rim.
Favorite hype song?
Go DJ. Lil Wayne.
Okay. Charity, or where do you like to spend your non-basketball time? Like serving?
At church.
Mm-hmm. There's going to come a point in time when you're going to have two numbers on both sides of your dash. And there's going to be a legacy, and they're going to talk about Nick Daniels. What do they say?
What do they say? They say somebody that gave back and made the world a better place.
My man. Well, our time is up, but man, I got to thank you because I this is probably my favorite one. Just enjoying it, talking about basketball. I love basketball so much. Love our friendship and what I'm learning from you, not only as a basketball coach, but a husband. Our small group together, and just thank you for stopping by today. Let's give him the wrap. Let's let him wrap it up today. Officially.
What do I say?
You just bang, pop it. It's a wrap.
It's a wrap.